Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on an improving Monday afternoon. Last 24 hours we had almost 2 inches of rain. Thankfully, it was rain. If that was snow, that'd be about 2 feet worth. And I'm okay not having it. In fact, the rain took away what little bit of snow we got last week. I'll give credit to last week's storm. The conditions were just right that it hung on the trees for almost a week. And it was kind of pretty, put people in the holiday spirit, but I like my green grass, which I'm back to. Yes, I know I could live in other parts of the country, but I have to and do enjoy all seasons. Today we're talking about Muncie 4-speeds and Hurst shifters. What a great combination. General Motors, when they started making performance vehicles, before they even knew they were making performance vehicles, I guess. Originally, when they decided they needed an aluminum 4-speed, it was a Borg-Warner T10. If you're singing about your 4-speed dual quad positive traction 409, that had a T10, what I call the early T10. It's 10 spline input, small output, what we know is turbo 350 size, power glide size. And for whatever happened, they decided about, 63 or 4, along that same timeline, to make their own transmission, which they did. Very similar in a lot of ways to the Borg-Warner T10. External clues to tell the difference. The fastest way is a Muncie has 7 bolts on the side cover, and a Borg-Warner early T10 and the later Super T10 have 9 bolts on the cover. So right away, you can tell the difference. The early T10s were coarse spline, like I said, and when in 73 or 4-ish, they replaced the Muncie, which had gone to fine 26 spline input, turbo 400 size output. The Borg-Warner Super T10 took over from that. It was available in more ratios, where the Muncie was only available in 2 ratios. Despite this going by their code, which is M20 wide ratio, which these are, M21 close ratio, and the M22s, which are all close ratio, and they're very rare. So people will look at this one with the 26 spline input and the big output and automatically think it's an M22. It's not. It's an M20 wide ratio. It has 2 grooves on the input shaft telling you that. So a little bit of research will tell you that. People get really confused when you talk about ratios. The higher the ratio, the lower the number. That's all you got to remember. So these are wide ratio. They have a 256, 2.56 first gear. General Motors cars that had 355 rear end gears, 3.55 rear end gears and higher, so down toward the 2s, got the wide ratio transmission with a lower first gear, so you could actually let the clutch out and accelerate without stalling it. If you ordered 3.73 gears or lower, which is higher numerically, you got the M21 or the M22 close ratio, which had a 2.20 first gear. If you combine that 220 first gear with like a 308 rear end, that thing is a dog. It would, once you got it rolling, I guess it would be okay. High gear still 1-to-1, so there's no advantage there. If there's a downfall in all these transmissions, one, they're not rated for the power that we have today, and the high gear is 1-to-1, no overdrive. The only aluminum 5-speed, 4-speed with an overdrive ever made that's worth anything, in my opinion, is the now Richmond. Originally Doug Nash had a 4+1. I have one of those or 2 of those. And they just have an extra low first gear. You combine that with a high rear end ratio, that makes it able to accelerate. And high gear is still 1-to-1, but because you have a high rear end gear, low numerically, like a 273 or a 308, it goes down the highway okay. when Richmond bought the rights to build that transmission, which they still do, they now make it a 5-speed. It's rugged. It'll take like 600 foot-pounds, which is pretty decent for a compact transmission. And it has actual overdrive. Every other thing made has never been up to the task. Again, the T10's pretty good when you put all aftermarket gears in it. The Jericho is based on a top load of Ford, but again, all aftermarket gears. But when you're talking factory transmissions in history, they've never really made a good overdrive. The TKO 5 and 600s, aftermarket transmissions, and they were available in some Mustangs, I believe, too. They're 5 or 600 torque rating, but the shift is kind of clunky. I mean, they work. I have one in my Street 55. It's great for cruising. It doesn't shift like this style shifter. Just the way it is. You can get used to it. You can make it work, but it's never going to be buttery smooth like this combination just happened to be. Well, let's snap back to reality and talk about what's in front of us. This is a 67, I believe. 66. It's completely rebuilt. It has a tag. The guy wrote a nice note on what he did, guy or girl. So whoever rebuilt it back in November of 2015 says the tag. By all appearances, they did an excellent job. Nobody went at it with a caulking gun. It has real gaskets, the correct bolts. Somebody tried and did a really nice job rebuilding this one. It is, again, pre-70s Muncie's or 10 spline. These both have a 1-inch cluster pin. You can see it on the front, upgraded from the 7/8 of the early ones. History-wise, you can study it, but this is an excellent, it's rebuilt. I haven't driven it yet, but it's essentially, according to the tag, all brand new, which is cool. The shifter I put on it, this is a brand new, old stock Hurst super shifter, which has the straight-ish reinforced rods and a high bracket, high mounting position. And I had the rods and the shifter and the bracket, again, all brand new. I had to come up with the arms, and it is super tight. This is essentially all, the transmission is refurbished, the shift is brand new, about as good as you can get in a used transmission. This M20, I believe it's a 1973 or 4, I don't remember, 73. I can see the code right on the side of it, that's what I'm looking at. Again, they'd gone to the 26 spline input, the big output. Other than that, very similar, same ratio, 256, wide ratio M20s. The biggest difference today, as far as installing a shifter, happened when they went away from the studs and nuts like you see on this one. I think you can. Holding the levers on the side of the transmission, they went to this style. It took a bolt, and the actual rectangle that goes over that is bigger, and you can see that has like a hole drilled in the middle. That actually fits on there. The stud style is smaller, and it will not fit on the side of the transmission. Now you can put the big one on the studded transmission. Hurst made a little adapter that you bolt in there, just a piece of metal bent up, and it fills the hole and allows you to put the bigger opening levers on the early transmissions. But you cannot put the early ones on this without having a mill and machining it out more. So I dug through what I had when I put this on. I had to come up with my own levers, and the levers I put on here have the right offset. The levers clear themselves, but they're a little bit shorter this direction, which makes the shifter even closer. It's fine, but if I wanted to spread that out, I could put the arms that I now have on here. It would just jack everything up a little bit, but I like it the way it is for now. This transmission, it's funny, last week, end of the day, this thing's been sitting there for a while. So with the shifter, I have a whole cabinet full of parts. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put a shifter on that transmission and then put it away. I did that. I go into the house, I read my emails, and my buddy Ken had sent me a link to an install kit for an early Muncie. Now I knew I had a late transmission I wanted to put a shifter on. Now, as you've watched my old videos, I make my own rods, I make my own levers, but sometimes it's fun just to put on new old stock stuff. So this was half price. I knew I had a bunch of shifter bodies, so I said, what the heck? Let's buy it and put it on this transmission. So that's what we're gonna do today. So in modern times, if you buy a Hurst shifter, you buy the shifter itself, and then you buy the install kit. They get you twice. So this kit was all there, brand new. Again, for an early transmission, which gave me the correct arms if I want to swap them on this transmission. And in my stock, I knew I had the right arms already for this transmission. So that's going to work out. The install kit comes with the mounting bracket for the tail housing, the rods, bushings, clips, etc. I even got a decal on this one. For the shifter itself, I'm going to run the stock style bracket that moves the shifter down. When you put this super shifter in a muscle car or whatever, you have to cut a much bigger hole. Not too big, too much bigger, but definitely bigger and in a slightly different spot. So for factory style Hurst shifters, I have a couple, they call them Competition Plus. The body itself isn't any different, it's just the attachment stuff they used. If you had a factory console, you have an offset like this one, and you can run this in a vehicle without the console. Just your shift is going to be a little further away from your leg. In a street rod and stuff, that's not a bad idea. I don't know where these transmissions are going to end up, so for today's exercise, I found this really nice Competition Plus. Now the only difference between a factory OEM Hurst shifter, well, one of the main differences between a factory OEM Hurst shifter that was installed from the factory but still made by Hurst and the Hurst Competition Plus is these adjustable stops. And as I've showed you, if you go back to my old videos, there's a pilot hole already installed in all the shifters I have, and you can drill and tap and add this feature if you want. That's a stop to prevent from breaking the arm off the side of the transmission. The brunt of your whaling the shifter, banging gears, is taken by the stop. But this is a really nice GM style. I can tell by the arms here. I have Mopar and Ford and different ones, and sometimes these are in different configurations. When I put my rods that I make on it, I can make them all fit. But this is a nice one, and I found a nice used handle and a well-worn knob with the pattern on it. So that's what we're going to use today. Let me show you the new hardware kit. Sorry about the noise. This is most of the install kit with the exception of the extra arms. These came in this kit with a smaller rectangle. The stud type. This is the bolt type. These are mine. These did not come in the kit. Same with the reverse arm. I'm just going to use the correct one to fit my transmission. The holes in the same spot. This was for back drive linkage. You could leave it or cut it off. Brand new bracket. Came with the bolts. The linkage themselves, I'm going to put, I could run nylon bushings in all positions. It's quieter that way. Performance application in the 1, 2, and 3, 4. The longer rods, I like to put the brass bushings, bronze I guess. And in the reverse, I'll still run the nylon. It's that much less things to vibrate. I have many boxes of Hurst parts, so that I keep collecting. And I have a whole cabinet full and do my best to organize them. So now, let's go back to the transmission. One more note, being a fastener snob. For the 3/8 bolts, this is what Hurst gave you. That's good for wiring, but actual, as far as a washer or lock washer goes, I went ahead and got my own. They give you the short ones for the arms. They don't give you the short ones for the bracket. They gave me a regular lock washer and flat washer for the large bolt for the shifter body. But for the 3/8 bolt over here, they just gave me one more of those. So I won't be using those. I'll save that when I need to ground a wire if I'm building a wiring harness. And I'll put a real washer on there. I have the shifter bolted on. I have a pin in neutral, just like this one. The pin is 1/4 of an inch, so you can use a drill bit. This is a transfer punch. The early Hurst shifters had a metal alignment rod. In later years, it went to plastic. But again, this transmission is in neutral, and it should always slide right in. So everything's tight. That should always fit back in. That's when you know you're in neutral. I went ahead and started dummying up the rods. Again, on the reverse rod, I went ahead and put the nylon bushings in. You don't engage reverse, certainly as often as you do the forward gears. And with this shifter mounting position, you can see how much lower and further ahead it is in this one. They actually run like the 1-2 rod underneath the reverse, where the ones I build, they're high and proud like this one. But they did this for, OEM reasons, or whatever reason they decided to take this route. Probably didn't have a choice. I guess I've seen some go up over, so anyway. So again, I'm choosing bronze bushings for the 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shout out to the rods that I make with the left and right hand rod ends. I can just install them and then spin them to get them perfect adjustment. This, you'll often find it'll be close in one position. It's threaded here, so I'm turning the adjuster. Like it fits kind of okay in that one. If I give it one more turn. It's probably better. Try it one more. Probably too much now. Yep, too much. So it's like, Goldilocks. Which one's more comfortable? So that's going to be it. The clips, if you've never seen them, they go in. That goes through the hole. That goes around the rod. So let me pop that on, and we'll give it a try. All right, the 3 forearms installed. Take the pin out. Let's try it. First, second, third, fourth, neutral. See if we can get reverse. Got reverse. You can tell that first and second is considerably longer than this one. But, two different levels of comfort, I guess. So the only thing left to do now is set the stops. So we're going to first. Second is the first stop adjustment, which is this one. The shifter goes this way inside. I actually like to take a flashlight and a wrench. Make sure the lock nut's backed off, and you want to put it up so it hits the lever and then back it off maybe a quarter turn, and then set the lock nut, because you don't want it hitting all the time. You only want it to hit when you're really wailing on it. Next one's third. That'll be the back one, same deal. You see the lever move, you know you're hitting it. back it off just a little. So when you push it, it actually hits it. Tighten her up. Try it one more time. Not bad. So that's it. We have successfully resurrected a new set of linkage on an old shifter. The shifter body itself I picked up who knows where. I buy them whenever I see them. Typically I'd be making rods, but in this case I have all these nice rods, and in this case I actually spent money on rods, and just to make a nice stock shifter in the stock position, something I almost never do. But yeah, that was today's fun. Now I'll go catch the school bus and do something else. But I hope you had a great weekend, and the week ahead looks bright here. It's supposed to be sunny and 30s and 40s. Not bad for what, the third week of December. Headed into Christmas, and not going to rain till a week from today. And who knows, it'll probably change by then. So hey, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.